Hi, welcome to SDG Strategies Whiteboard Tutorials, where we teach you how to use strategy tools in your everyday work. Today we're going to be talking about two different tools, the business model canvas and the value proposition canvas. Both of these come from an organization called strategizer.com. On their website they've got some great information. I encourage you to check it out. But also check out our websites, sdgstrategy.com and clearpurpose.media, where you can find more great information like tutorials like this, blogs, podcasts, articles. We refer to them as tools and tales to help you develop sound strategies. My name is Russ McGuire. I'm the founder and chief strategist for SDG Strategy, and I'm glad to have you here. So, the business model canvas and the value proposition canvas, what are they good for? When do you use them? Well, both of these tools help you deeply understand the nature of your business. We'll get into them in a minute, and how they work together will become more clear. But basically, this helps you deeply understand how your business operates and how it creates value for customers. If you don't know that, then you probably don't really understand what your business is all about, and making strategic decisions is going to be a real challenge. I spend a lot of time mentoring startups especially, and as I sit down with them for the first time, or the first 2 or 3 sessions that I have with them, much of that time is focused on really probing and seeing how much of this they know. Now, on these charts, what you see are, what you'll get to eventually are truths about your business. But these are tools that are very heavily used in the lean startup methodology. And in the lean methodology, what you actually start with aren't truths. You might think they're truths, but they're actually hypotheses. And they're hypotheses that need to be tested and refined. And so these are tools, these are working documents. You start off with a set of hypotheses, and I find that as I work with startups or even well-established businesses, they may think they know what go into these charts when they start, but it becomes harder and harder to fill in some of the details. And then they get really surprised when they find out that things that they thought were true aren't actually true. So this is a great tool to document what's true about your business, but a great tool to deeply understand that and to refine it to make it better and stronger so that you can better serve your organization and better serve your customers. But I think that these tools also are incredibly helpful when you're making strategic decisions, which is why we're talking about it today. As we go through more of these tutorials, as you go through the other content that we'll provide on clearpurpose.media, what you'll find is that there are specific times when pulling out these documents and making sure they're up to date become incredibly valuable and helpful as you're working through different stages in strategy development. So let's jump in and let's talk about it. The business model canvas is the first one I'm going to talk about, and it was the first one that was introduced by Strategizer as well. What you see on the whiteboard are 9 boxes, and these 9 boxes effectively communicate everything there is to know about an organization. This is the business on a page. Now, when you look at this, you see 9 different boxes. But when I look at it, I really see 4 quadrants. And the first way that I like to split things is right and left. So the right half of this is what I like to refer to as the front end of your business. And this is really the customer-facing side. So the first 2 things that you really need to deeply understand is who are your target customers? Who is it that you're going after? Who is it that you want to serve? Who is it that you're passionate about helping? And then the second is the value proposition. What is it about what you're doing and what you're offering, what your products and services are? What is it about that really creates value for your customers so that they want to use you and they're willing to pay you? So those are the 2 first things that you really need to nail down. Now, in the lean startup methodology, in going through that process, you're actually going to create something called a minimal viable product. If you're an established business, you probably have a minimal viable product. You have something that's way beyond minimal and viable that's taught you what's true about your value proposition. But for entering a new market or introducing a new product line, this is a concept that can still be valuable and worth considering. Now, the minimal viable product isn't a full-blown product. It is the least that you can do, the least amount of time and the least amount of money that you can spend developing something that you can get into the hands of customers that they can really get their arms around and understand what it is that you're doing and how that creates value for them. And most importantly, to give you that feedback for you to learn from how they're interacting with it. And through that process, again, these are hypotheses when you're starting out. You might find that you thought you understood who the target customers were. You thought you understood which customers needed what it was that you could deliver. But in reality, you might learn that you were wrong, that there's a slightly different group of customers, a more refined group of customers, or maybe a totally different group of customers that really have the problem that you're setting out to solve. So you might pivot a little bit, you might shift a little bit to a new target customer. Or on the other hand, maybe you've got the right target customer, but what you thought was going to create value for them doesn't really create as much value as you expected. And what can create more value for them is something a little bit different or delivered in a different way. Or maybe the way in which it creates value is something that makes sense for you to charge in a different way. Your pricing model might not be right, or the way that you package it might not be right. So all of those are things that you learn. You start off with a hypothesis, you test it, you refine it, you improve it, and eventually it becomes a truth. So that minimal viable product is something that you get into the customer's hands. It might not even be a completely real thing. It might be a piece of paper that looks like what the end product is going to look like, or a 3D printed object that looks and feels like what the final product will be, but not really there. Something that the customer can interact with. Something a little bit more than just a concept, but something that they can start to really embed into the way that they operate and give you the feedback of, yeah, this solves my problem, or it doesn't solve my problem. Again, that continues to iterate and get more and more like a real product. And once you've got these nailed down, then you go full speed ahead in turning that into a product or a service that you take to market. So let's talk more about kind of what's on this front half. We've got the value proposition and we've got the target customer segments. The other two boxes that are on this front half of the business model canvas are the channels. This is how are you going to acquire new customers? How are customers going to learn about you? What are the marketing channels that you're going to use to reach them? And then how are you going to actually sell to them? What are the sales channels that you're going to use to actually close sales and land them as new customers and start to bring in new revenue? The second box that's above it is the customer relationship box. So this is really about customer retention and ongoing revenue from that customer. Even if you sell a product, you don't want that one product to be the only product you ever sell that customer. When that one wears out, you want them to buy another one from you. You might have other products that you're introducing and you want to make sure that they come back and they buy those products from you as well. Or perhaps there's some kind of ongoing maintenance contract that you want with that. So the channels are how you acquire customers. The customer relationship is what's your ongoing relationship with that customer so that you can continue to have a healthy relationship that will turn into ongoing revenue from that one customer. So all of this on the front half represents the relationship with the customer, the value that you deliver to that customer, and how you're going to turn that into sales and revenue. So coming down, the bottom half of this 9-box chart is the financial part. So this front half activity will translate into revenues. When you understand how big that target customer market is, when you understand how often they buy the types of products or services that you're talking about, when you understand how much they value what you're doing and how much they're willing to pay for it, and you understand what your pricing model looks like, and you understand your channels and how quickly you can grow that revenue through those channels, and you understand the customer relationship and what that ongoing revenue looks like from those customers, all of that translates into an understanding of what your revenue curve looks like, what your revenue growth looks like, and what your long-term ongoing revenue is. So the back half of this business model canvas is all about how you deliver that value proposition to the customers. How do you actually operationalize that? How do you operate your business so that you actually are creating that value and delivering it to customers? So immediately behind the value proposition are two boxes. One box is key activities, the other box is key resources. Or another way to think about it is, what do I need to do and what do I need to have if I'm going to create that value and deliver it to my customers. Now, in reality, it probably doesn't make sense for you to own everything and for you to do everything that's necessary. So the last box here in the top half is the key partners. Who are your key partners that you're going to outsource to or rely on or partner with to do some of those activities or to rely on their resources to be able to do these things? When Amazon got started, they didn't have a delivery business. Their key partners included the Postal Service and UPS and FedEx and all these other ways in which they could leverage the logistics capabilities of other organizations, their key partners, to be able to deliver product to their customers. Over time, they found that that's something that they could replicate, they could build internally. And so, relatively recently, they've made that migration, they've made that shift. So on this back half, this is the operational piece. This is what you need to have, what you need to invest in, the resources that you need to spend money to build, and the key activities, the money you need to spend on an ongoing basis to keep doing what you're doing to be able to create that value and to deliver it to customers. And then part of that, again, is partners. But all of that turns into expenses, both upfront expenses in terms of the investments you need to make to get started and the ongoing expenses it takes to continue to operate the business. So that's the business model canvas. Now, I mentioned that these two boxes, the value proposition and the target customer segments, are the two most important boxes to get right, the two most important concepts to deeply understand as you're building this out and really as you're building your business and as you're growing your business and as you're continuing to refine that business and make it stronger all the time. So, what the Strategizer folks came out with next was the value proposition canvas, which makes it easy to do that deeper dive into those two concepts, those two elements of this business model that are so essential and so critical. So starting on the right with the customer, which is where you really need to start with your business, there are three parts to this customer profile. And the first part is the jobs. When you are interacting with the customer, what jobs are they doing that you think you can help them with? They might have lots of different jobs, but there's a certain subset that when you go in and you talk to them and you say, hey, I'm Russ McGuire, I'm with SDG Strategy. What are the jobs, what are the aspects of their job that you can help them get done? The top half of this circle are the gains. When they do those jobs and they do those jobs well, what's the positive outcome? What do they hope to get out of that? How does that create value for them? And then the bottom half is the pains. In doing those jobs and in trying to accomplish those gains, what are the challenges that they face? What are the roadblocks? What are the things that make it hard and painful and make their jobs not so pleasant? So this represents the customer. This is something that you may think you know, but you aren't going to know until you go out and you talk to the customer. And so a lot of this is kind of a customer discovery process of sitting down with customers and not saying, hey, I've got a great widget I want you to buy, or I've got this great service I want you to take advantage of. It's sitting down and saying, how do you go about your day-to-day job? When you're trying to do this, how do you do it? How do you approach it? What other products or services have you tried to try to get that job done? What worked well? What didn't work well? What are the challenges that you face every day? And when you have a big win, when things go really well, what does that look like? What does that gain look like? What do you celebrate at the end of the day? Those are discussions that you have completely independent of the sales process. And when you have those discussions enough, then this picture starts to become clear. Again, you're starting off with hypotheses. You think you know these answers, but it's not until you test and refine that you get a really clear picture of what this customer really looks like and what it is that you're helping them to do. Once you have that clear, then you can move to the left side, which is really the value proposition. This is what you're bringing to the table. And the first part, the farthest left part, is the products and services. What is it that you're selling? What's in that product portfolio? What's in your tool bag when you walk in the door that you can bring to bear to be able to help them do their jobs and gain those gains? So that's kind of an inventory list, a catalog of what it is that you have in your toolbox that you can bring to the table. The other two parts are how you deliver that. What is it unique about the way in which you're bringing those products and services to market or to the customer, really, that are going to help them to capture those gains. This top box is called the gain creators, and it should line up fairly well with these gains. You might not hit every single one of the gains that they're shooting for, but you should hit a lot of them. And then similarly, the bottom half here is the painkillers. What is it about the way in which you are delivering the products and services, the unique ways in which you're doing that, that are going to help them eliminate these pains, overcome these roadblocks, ease the discomfort that they have in doing their jobs and creating the gains that they want to create. So that's the quick introduction. But I think it's going to be most helpful to you if we walk through this with some real examples. And so the example that I want to use is my own business. And I'm going to start down here on the value proposition canvas, because I think that this is where you have to start. You have to start with an understanding of the customer and how you create value for them. So I'm going to erase the labels that I have in here, and I'm going to start to fill in with my current set of hypotheses with some level of refinement that's happened around each of these. So, SDG strategy, what we do is we help people develop sound strategies. We help leaders do that. And specifically, the first target customer segment that we're going after is Christian business leaders. Business leaders who are Christians, who bring to their job kind of a biblical perspective and a desire to really love their neighbor and to love God as they're leading their business organizations. Their businesses are, maybe anything. I'm not talking about just businesses that have a fish symbol on them or would advertise themselves as Christian businesses, but the leaders themselves are driven by a certain ethos, a certain perspective on the world. So what are the jobs that I think I can help Christian business leaders do? What jobs do they have to do that I think I can help them with? Well, one thing that every business leader needs to do is develop strategies. So strategies there are all kinds of strategies. There's a corporate or a business level strategy, there's a market level strategy, there's a product level strategy, there's a people strategy, there's a system strategy. There are all kinds of strategies within your organization. And those strategies need to be constantly being refined and developed. And so that is what leaders are doing all the time. Now, it's not their main job for most business leaders. The second thing that I think that they do is slightly different, but it's strategic planning. This is a process. It's for many organizations, it's an annual process. It's the process of saying, how are we going to accomplish our goals? What are the things that we're going to do? Let's lay this out. It's not developing a single strategy. It's not a project, but it's a repeated process that happens often on an annual basis. And then the third thing that I can help them with is actually making strategic decisions. In a way, this is similar to developing strategies, but in a way, many times it's different. Developing a strategy is creating a framework that helps you make lots of decisions. But strategic decisions may be one-off. What partner are we going to go after? What market are we going to enter? Now, once you decide to enter a market, then you need a market strategy, and then you develop the strategy for that. So they're related, but they're different sets of activities. So when Christian business leaders are doing these jobs, what are they hoping to accomplish? What do they hope to get out of that? Well, from my experience, I think that there's two basic gains that they're hoping for. And one of those is that they want to, how do I phrase it? They want more people served better. So this effectively is saying we want to grow our business and we want to increase the value that we're delivering to our customers. And this also can have an internal perspective. So we want to have more employees and we want to be able to serve those employees, or we want to have more investors. We want to be able to create more value for those investors. But effectively, any business that's developing strategies and doing strategic planning, in almost every case, they want to grow the organization, they want to grow the business, and they want to operate that business better. So strategy development is really about performing better. And the best way for me to capture that through a Christian lens, perhaps, is that more people would be served better. And the second thing that I think that Christian business leaders are hoping to gain or to get out of these strategic processes and projects is they want God glorified. So, when we go back, Jesus was once asked, what are the two greatest commandments? And he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that effectively is captured in what I've written down here for what Christian business leaders are trying to accomplish. From a business perspective, it really means growing the business and being able to provide better performance, create more value for customers. And then at the same time, do it in a way in which God is glorified. So what's hard about this? Well, I think that the hardest thing about this, the greatest pain for most Christian business leaders, or any type of business leader for that matter, is that strategy isn't really their strength. I mentioned that all business leaders do strategy, but for most business leaders, strategy is a small part of their job. Maybe it's 5% of their job, maybe it's 10%, maybe it's 1%. But most of what they're spending their energy on and their time and their thinking is the day-to-day operations, the things that they're doing every day, day in and day out, to make the business work well and to deliver that value that they're creating for their customers. When they have to take a step away from that and to do strategy, it's like picking up a tennis racket when you're used to swinging a golf club. It's a different type of motion, it's a different type of activity, and it's one that may not come naturally to many business leaders. So that's a challenge, that's a pain in this model. The second thing that I would mention is that if it's not your strength, you can always outsource it. But strategy consultants are expensive. So strategy consultants tend to say, yeah, we can do that. It'll be a 3-month project and it'll cost you $500,000. And that's great if you're a big corporation and you don't mind spending $500,000 for some people to come in and do what really is learning your business for you and doing it. But that's just one of the pains. If you're gonna outsource this, then that may be a price that you're willing to pay, and that's good. That's fine for you. The third thing, from a kind of day-to-day perspective of having worked in many different organizations and done many of these types of planning exercises or strategy development projects, the two things that are hard to do for many organizations is gain consensus and then communicate effectively so that everybody can be on the same page. It's really getting everybody on the same page and then making sure everybody stays on the same page. So I'm just going to put that down as C and C. So that's consensus and communications. And then the last thing that I would mention as a pain or a challenge for Christian business leaders in doing these types of strategy jobs is really just worldly temptations. It's so easy in our business environment to be focused on the wrong things, not to be focused on loving your neighbor, to to be focused on how do I maximize my profit? How do I squeeze as much margin out of this as I can? And that's often not loving. Or how can I trick people into doing what I want them to do? How can I act in a way that maybe isn't with full integrity, but that I believe in the short term is going to deliver the performance that I'm being told I need to deliver by whoever that is, whether that be investors, whether that be my boss. And so these worldly temptations make it a real challenge for the Christian business leader who's focused on operating with integrity and honoring God and loving people. So this, I think, captures pretty well the customer that we're seeking to serve in our business. And so hopefully that gives you a sense for how one organization would approach developing the customer profile within the value proposition canvas. So then let me finish it out over here with what does our value proposition look like in serving those customers. And again, hopefully this will help you get a sense for how you do it for your organization. So we've got a bunch of what I would think of as products. Many of them are communications oriented. So we have a blog, and we have a podcast, and we have these tutorials. And so all of those are ways in which we can communicate how to develop strategy, how we can effectively teach people how to do that. We're also in the process of developing online tools so that people can come to our website and to be able to use the tools online so that they can develop these strategies. And then the other things that we offer are more engaged personal interactions and services. And so we've got consulting and facilitation and advising. Where advising is more of an ongoing relationship as opposed to a one-off consulting engagement or facilitation. So then, if these are the things that we offer, there are others that offer that. I think Strategizer.com offers many of those things, if not all of them. So there are other consulting companies that do that. But how do we do it in a way that really matches up with the gains and the pains of our customer? How do we do it in a way that creates those gains and takes away those pains? Well, one thing that we have on when I look at what they're trying to accomplish is that we have proven tools and methodologies that time and time again have helped with growth and helped with delivering more value. So really that more people served better kind of model. So these tools and methodologies, many of them we're teaching with tutorials like this, or with our blog, or with our podcast, or telling stories about how other companies or other organizations have done it. So that those can be very helpful to you as you're trying to figure out how can I make these strategic decisions? How can I do the strategic planning? How can I develop these strategies? How can I do all of those things in a way that's going to move my organization forward? And then the second thing is that SDG strategy is really me. I'm a one-man shop, and I'm a Christian, and my focus is entirely on God's glory, not as entirely as it should be, as any human, any Christian would recognize. But even the naming of the company, SDG, stands for Soli Deo Gloria. So it's all for God's glory. So the second piece of this gain creator is that you're working with a Christian focused on God's glory. And by the way, feel free to hold me accountable to that standard. So how in the way in which we deliver these products are we going to help overcome those pains? And so, the first thing that I'd say is that we offer a range of options. So depending on where you are, where you're coming from in this process, if you are already pretty good at this strategy stuff, or if you're a quick learner, then you might just need to watch some of these tutorials and you can get it and you can do it yourself, and that's great. I'm thrilled that we've been able to help you. For others, you might want to have an hour-long consultation over a video link or over a phone call, and I can coach you and I can help you learn what maybe you haven't been able to get entirely through these tutorials. And so, that's great. Or perhaps you need for me to come and facilitate over video or do it in person, facilitate a strategy session or a planning session with your team. Or, maybe it's a little bit more of an engagement than that, where I'm going to work with you over a matter of days or weeks to get something done. But that range of options, you can effectively step up. Depending on where you are, you can decide what makes sense for you. Some things will be free and some things won't be free, but whatever makes sense for you. The second is that, I would call out that our model is a catalyst model as opposed to a consultant model. So what that means is that instead of saying we're going to come in, we're going to do a 3-month project, we're going to bring an army of recent MBA grads, you're going to train them all in your business, and then we're going to create an output for you, and it's going to take 3 months and it's going to cost you $500,000. That's the consultant model. The catalyst model says, you know what, I want to come in, you've got smart people, you understand your business better than I ever will. Let me be a catalyst that accelerates and improves, increases, makes better your own ability to develop these strategies. So let me be the catalyst that makes your organization work better at doing this, and where I'm an additive to that, but I'm not the process. I'm not the one who owns it at the end of the day. You do. I've just helped make it work better and faster and easier, and hopefully save you a lot of money. The third thing is that the tools and approaches drive that CNC. They really address that CNC. So we have approaches, we have methodologies, we have tools that really help you drive that consensus to get everybody on board, everybody on the same page. And also the natural outcome of most of these tools is something that can effectively communicate to everybody in the organization. Even as messy as this is, you get a sense for how this can start to create some value as you try to communicate to your team. This is who we're trying to serve, and this is what's unique about what we're doing. So in everything we do, we need to make sure that it aligns with this way of how we operate. And then the last thing that I'd say, again, as a one-man shop, SDG strategy, I am a Christian. Focused on operating with integrity. So to me, I'm not going to come along and say, the best way for you to do this is some way that's, going to fall into those worldly temptations. I'm going to come to you and I'm going to say, look, as we approach this, what does the Bible say? As we're considering different options, I'm going to help you identify those that might be a challenge for you as you're trying to operate your business in a way that honors God. And so again, this is just a quick example using my own business as a way to help you understand how to go through this process. For your business, it's going to be very different. Your products and services are different. The way in which you approach it to create the gain and to kind of address those pains that your customers have is going to be different. But this hopefully has given you a sense for how to approach it. Now, just to finish this out, and I know I've already been talking for about 35 minutes and you're probably tired of hearing me, but I want to take this as the starting point and I want to bring it back up here and fill out the business model canvas. You start with this. You start with the customer, you start with the value proposition. But let's fill in these boxes so you get a sense. So I already mentioned that the target customer is Christian business leaders. And the value proposition that I believe that I offer and that my business offers is helping leaders develop sound strategies. So that's great. I can understand perfectly who these people are, and I can honestly believe that I have, this ability to create this value to help leaders develop sound strategies. But how's anybody ever going to know about it? What are the channels that I use? Well, one of my products is the blog and the podcast and these tutorials. And so how do I get those in front of people? Well, the best way to do it in today's world is really social media. So the network that I've developed over many decades, as well as the networks that I'm associated with, being able to leverage the networks and the social media to get the word out, to be able to get the visibility. And then, it's really through my website and personal contact. So it's really up to me to close the sale, and for people to be able to reach me through my website, through email, through texting me or connecting with me on social media. So what is the ongoing customer relationship like? Well, this takes a variety of different forms. At its simplest, it's someone who is just following my media, following my blog posts and my podcasts and my video tutorials. Someone who is, when they're trying to figure out how do I do this, they might do a Google search and they find that I've posted a tutorial like this. So those followers are an ongoing relationship, hopefully, that I can maintain. The second is those that effectively maintain an ongoing relationship where I'm part of their professional network, and they know that when they need something that they're going to reach out to me. But the strongest relationship is an advisory relationship. This typically comes after doing work for someone where it's been good work. It may be several different types of engagements, but at the end of it they say, you know what, Russ is someone that I always want to have there. It's a retained advisory relationship where I'm always available to them. I'm not charging them by the hour. It's a matter of when they've got a question, they reach out to me and I'm ready to answer it. So that's the best type of customer relationship, the deepest, the most engaged, because it's an ongoing dialogue that we're constantly having. So then, moving to the left side, what do I need to do if I'm going to deliver this value proposition to my customers? And one is I need to write. I need to create that content. I need to record it as podcasts and as these video tutorials as I'm doing right now. I need to advise. I need to help my customers when they need help on a one-off basis. I need to mentor. Some of the relationships I have are very much of a mentoring relationship. And at times, I need to facilitate and do projects. So those are the types of activities. My business is very activity-oriented. It's much less resource-oriented. So the key resources that I need are, I do need a website. I do need a blog and a podcast platform. And I also need to develop these online tools that I've mentioned that we have under development now. So then who are my key partners? Well, the best partners for me are really the Christian business ministries. So those ministries that are really focused on helping Christian business leaders. So then when I move down to the bottom half, I'm not going to get into details here, but just to give you a sense, the nature of the revenues are really consulting fees and advisory fees. And over on the expenses side, it's my online platform costs, and to the extent that I need to bring on some additional help, there may be some, I'll call it manpower. There are times when I'll bring a friend in to help because a project needs more than one person. Maybe we're facilitating a session and I need to have someone else there to help make everything go smoothly. So, very quickly, in 40 minutes, 40 to 45 minutes, I've quickly introduced you to what are these tools. Hopefully you've got a sense for when to use them. Certainly in a startup mode, whether for entering into a new market or launching a new product or launching a new venture. These are great tools to help you make sure that you're starting off on the right path. They start as hypotheses. Over time, as you test and refine, they become more and more truths. But then also, I've given you an example of how to go about it. This is just for a fairly simple business, my consulting business, SDG Strategy. But hopefully that's given you a sense for how you might approach it for your own business. So thank you for your time and for your attention. Again, if there's any way that I can help you, please do reach out. My email address is russ, R-U-S-S, at sdgstrategy.com. Thank you, and I hope to see you again soon.